Hey y'all, it's Diamond here, your host of the Creative Women Wanted podcast. This podcast is for the Black women working behind the scenes to bring to life our favorite TV shows, both scripted and unscripted. This is a community. It's a safe space for us to talk about our stories, talk about our journeys, what we're watching, reading, and what we are learning. And today, I am having a conversation with a writer from Rap Shit, from HBO Max's Rap Shit. Her name is Nina Gloster-Burrell. And we had such an incredible conversation. We talked about her journey. We talked about what it meant for her to be a writer's assistant, how she got her first staff writing position. We talked about her respect for writer's assistant. We talked about motherhood. We talked about Rap Shit, of course, and what it meant for her to work on that show and what she's excited about with Rap Shit. And she has a very special episode coming up this upcoming week that we get to watch, that she wrote, that she fought for. And I'm really excited, and she was really excited about the work she's doing, and it showed through our conversation. And we talked about what it means to be human and to have faith in this industry that can be very difficult at times. So I'm gonna give you all a little background about Miss Nina Gloster-Burrell, and then we are gonna get into the conversation. She grew up in Silver Springs, Maryland. She obtained a bachelor's degree from Spelman, where she double majored in comparative women's studies and African American studies, and she minored in film. She also holds a master's of fine arts from USC School of Cinematic Arts. During her time at USC, she spent several months working in Cape Town, South Africa, directing a documentary called People Who Fell from the Sky. That documentary highlighted the connection between the experiences of lack of identity with African Americans and colored South Africans, post-colonization specifically. Your girl is deep, okay? She has worked on Fox's hit show Star, which we talk a little bit about today, and she was staffed in 2016 as a television writer on Star. She's gone on to work on other cable shows since, including Intercepted and now HBO Max's Rap Shit. We also talk about a reimagining that she's also going to be writing on. So let's get into the conversation with myself and Miss Nina Gloster, a writer from HBO Max's Rap Shit. All right, Nina, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? How you feeling?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. I've been listening to this Beyonce album.
Ooh.
Have you listened?
Oh my gosh, I'm late to the show. No, I've been trying to take like a social media hiatus a little bit, but I knew it was dropping, so I'm already anticipating.
It is phenomenal. Like, it's skipless, okay? So
is it drop or is it only for the people who did like the special pre-order stuff?
Oh, girl, it's drop. Like, sis dropped the album, the #1 in 100 countries. Okay.
I'm not surprised at all.
Right, it's Beyonce. But I'd love to know what you think, what you listen, girl, because it is just amazing.
I can't wait. As soon as I get in the car today.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, I'm excited to dive into this conversation. Thank you again for joining me today. So I want to start with younger Nina. I know you put in the work, you put in your 10,000 hours. So as a kid, was the vision to always be a part of the production world?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I absolutely would never consider that at this point. But yeah, I thought I wanted to do whatever was going to make me successful and I would be able to take care of my family. That was like my goal, was like being able to take care of my family. I did an internship in high school in which I realized that was not my calling.
Like, how did you realize it was not your calling? Like, what was the thing that was like, you know what?
I had absolutely no interest. Like, I think in my head, like as a kid, I'm like, I want to help people. I had my uncle did corporate law and I interned with him and I was like, absolutely not. And then I tried again when I went to Spelman. I think when I like going into my freshman year, I'm pretty sure I was like a political science or something, but
okay.
No. So luckily going to like a liberal arts college and HBCU and Spelman in particular, I was literally like Denise Huxtable. I changed my major like 10 times. But the gift of having gone to Spelman was being exposed to a lot of the different curriculum that I would not have if I had gone to like a PWI.
Right.
And after changing my major like 10,000 times, I finally landed with and this is still me not knowing exactly where I was going with this, but I landed with comparative women's studies, double major African American studies, and then I minored in film. And
Okay.
so I minored in film at Spelman, which is more like film theory and like, you know,
Right.
that type of coursework. But then I also went over to Clark and cross-registered and picked up a film minor there also.
Okay.
So even then, my plan was to direct. And so when I graduated Spelman, I applied to USC Film School and went straight from undergrad to USC Film School for my MFA. And I went for directing.
Nice.
And it was great. But when I got to my final year, it's a 3-year program. When I got to my final year, I was like, how am I going to make this work for me and make the most out of this expensive ass tuition? And so I found a way to kind of do a thesis film, like your the way that you graduate in that program is like either you can do there's a couple different versions, but for the most part, most of the students do like a thesis film. But I found a way to do a thesis film and a bit of the writing track, and I wrote a feature as my thesis as well. So I was able to kind of get the best. I was like, I'm gonna get my money's worth.
Yeah. But look, that makes sense because I know that it's not cheap. It's definitely like an investment in you. So, did you end up doing all of the shorts that you worked on while you were in college, or was it after?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
how
those
did you get into that?
I hate to say every time I look at my IMDb, I'm like, when are they going to strip these from my IMDb? Because I'm very, I mean, a lot of them, a lot of the shorts we do in film school are shitty. Let's just be completely honest. Like we're still learning, we're still figuring
Right,
it
right,
out. A lot of the kids in the directing program are not writers, so you know what, you get the point.
right.
But no, every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, look how far you've come. The beautiful thing about the MFA program at USC is you literally have to learn every facet of the film industry. So you have to be an editor, you have to be a producer on someone's film, you have to be a director, you have to do all of those things. And I just felt like I wasn't so happy with the content that I was directing when we would do like, you know, reinvent a couple of scenes from a film or write someone in the writing programs or direct someone in the writing programs short or, and I was like, I want to write one myself. I could do better than like, you know, and
Right.
that's what made me kind of shift and take some classes in the writing program. And I was like, oh, I can do this. I like doing this. This is
Okay.
good. So that's kind of what shifted me. And even so, after I graduated, I mean, you know, you pay all that money to go to film school, but even when you graduate, you're still going right back to being an assistant. Nothing changes. You know,
Right,
you have to
right, right.
start get it out the paint. So I was an assistant in every level possible. I worked in unscripted. I worked everywhere. I worked in unscripted. I worked on set as a PA. I worked finally as like a showrunner's assistant, which finally got me into a couple of times, which got me into the writer's room as a writer's assistant. And that's how my career started. But
Got it.
yeah, I was everywhere.
No, I love that. And do you feel like, what do you think? What's like the number one thing you learned from those experiences?
Oh man, I had the best experiences. I mean, unscripted, I hated it. I would never consider unscripted. And there are some versions of it that I see now in how it's evolved that are beautiful, but
Right.
that's not my world. But I worked on this super, super, super low budget film in Louisiana, Lafayette and New Orleans, Louisiana. And it was so low budget and it was the best experience I've ever had. Of course, I was in my like early 20s and I had, you know, I was open to that type of thing.
Right. Like,
Work
you can do those types of things then.
absolutely. And the it was like working in Lafayette, Louisiana, it was like the crew was just a family. We were like literally filming at these like mom and pop restaurants, and I'm sure they were charging absolutely nothing. They were just so happy to have like, you know, somebody
Yeah.
film it was just, oh my God, the food was amazing. But that experience, just working on such a low budget film and having to like, everyone had to just really collaborate because it wasn't about the money, obviously.
Right.
And that was like one of my most fun experiences and learning experiences, because I was actually a writer's assistant, a director's assistant, and a producer's assistant on
Wow.
that.
You know everything.
And it was like a festival film, you know, it was like one of those films that goes to festivals. But that was like experiences like those. Man, I learned so much, and I learned so much about the industry going in and out of, you know, scripted, unscripted, feature, television. Um,
Right. Right.
and so, I mean, that just makes you a better writer and just better in every aspect when it comes to just like being in this industry and respecting other people's jobs and, you know, all of that.
Absolutely. I feel like it speaks to the idea that our journeys are not linear, right? Like I
Mm,
felt like sometimes I used to make myself feel guilty about my journey. Like, am I all over the place? But it's like, actually,
yeah.
no, I'm actually going in the direction I'm supposed to go.
Oh
And
yeah.
it may or may not feel linear, but in hindsight, it works out.
Yeah, and possibly it's supposed to be all over the place. I was definitely all over the place, but you know, God had a plan in it.
Right. And it's like maybe I need to remove the remove the energy away from all over the place. Maybe all over the place
Yeah,
is a great thing. Like
yeah.
it's a great thing.
Yeah, the connotation is negative, but I think, you know, there's angle, and when you land at your final or your resting spot, I think all of those that journey that you took is definitely going to inform your final, you know, landing.
Like the decisions that we make, it's going to inform
Yeah,
those, or and like you said, where we end up. So was Star your first writing position? Like, how did that happen?
yeah,
Your first staff writing. Sorry, staff writing.
that was my first staff job. So I had been working in the writers. So I, I started as the showrunner's assistant on Star, and when the show got picked up, I was like, "You need a writer's assistant? I can do it." I had no idea
Wow.
how to be a writer. I was
Yes.
literally Googling how to be a writer. Like, of course, I went to film school, and you know how to write a script, but like in terms of just like these specific industry jobs, sometimes, you know, I don't know exactly what, am I just literally typing everything there, like how do I format notes, how do I was just like Googling stuff. I was like, yeah, of course I can do it. Because, you know, I was gonna go for whatever was in front of me.
Right.
And when the show got picked up, they put me in the writer's room, and you know, I worked my ass off. And when I finally got comfortable, because I knew, I mean, my biggest like advice, because being a writer's assistant is such a huge opportunity, but it is a hard work. I respect writer's assistants so much. When I'm in the writer's room, um, I'm so grateful for having the experience of being a writer's assistant, because anytime I'm in a writer's assistant, I have so much respect, and I appreciate them so much. Like, I try to make sure I verbalize that in every room that I'm in, and just make them feel like they're appreciated. And because that job is taxing, there is not too many more taxing jobs in the writer's room than a writer's assistant. Like, you have to be on at all times, 24/7. You have to, and a lot of the, what I was getting at is the advice that I give to people who are planning to be in the writer's room or are current writer's assistants, is just like, you know, your primary job is to get the notes, because there's always like the overzealous writer assistant who just wants to like pitch and like show that they have something to contribute, and then they're not doing their job, and then that doesn't help the writers, because we rely on those notes. But then there's also the like sheepish, really shy, you know, um more nervous writer assistant that just does their primary job, and that's fine. If you want to be a writer assistant for your entire life, then that works for you. But if you have other plans, to use that to pivot your career, then it's like you want to get comfortable in the environment. You want to make sure that you cover all of your bases, and then once you're able to start multitasking, speak up when needed, when you actually have a really fully fleshed out idea. Don't just talk just to have your voice heard. Like, make sure that what you're saying people are taking heed to it, because when you speak it, you're actually, giving a good idea or a good point, making a good point. And when I was in the season 1 of Star, I feel like it was a very diverse room. There were probably more white people than other, which is kind of normal in this industry, but we were telling a lot of stories from our culture on that show. And so I felt a personal responsibility to speak up when I felt like things weren't, being accurately explained, or stories
Right.
were pitched that did not make sense. And so I think that I kind of, gained a level of respect from like Lee and some of the other like upper level writers, because I was able to speak to the culture, and I felt like I had a responsibility to do that, because I was like, whoa, wait, no, no, no. In no world would a Black person throw something in a police officer. Like, just like whatever is being pitched and the stories being told, just having that responsibility to like, actually, no, I'm just going to chime in right here. That doesn't sound, and especially in a show that's not only telling Black stories, but transgender stories, LGBTQ plus stories, and foster care, youth stories, like
Right.
all of
There's a
the
lot of
different dynamics.
stories.
Yeah. So that's like always my biggest thing for jumping into this industry as a assistant or a writer's assistant in particular, because that's important.
Did you would you say that was your personal mission for what you wanted to bring to the writers room at Star? And like, what was your vision as a writer, especially it being your first staff writing position? Like, what was your vision? What did you want to make sure you brought to the writing outside of the cultural nuances that you just talked about?
Yeah, no, I didn't think that that was going to be a responsibility of mine, because, going into that into that world and into that particular occupation, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, but I didn't have a clue what to expect. And I felt like, oh, the writers know everything. Like, they're here
Right.
for a reason. But everyone speaks to their own experience, and obviously nobody knows everything. But and everyone has limits on their experience, and that's why you have a room. That's the point of rooms, is collaboration. But I didn't really have too many expectations. I had hopes. I didn't have expectations. I had hopes and I had desires, and I was hoping somebody would be there to help like foster my career, and luckily I did. But I didn't have any expectations. I just felt like when I was sitting there and I was listening to some of these stories and the speeches, I was just like, okay, I have to speak up, because if I don't speak up, I'm not going to be proud of, even at whatever smallest contribution that I'm having to this show. I'm not going to be proud of something that I didn't speak up because I didn't agree with,
Yeah.
So I didn't have any expectations, but I just knew I had a responsibility.
I'll ask you this really quickly and then I want to get into rap shit. But was
Mhm.
there ever any fear in speaking up? I think sometimes like there can be a fear around it and it's like, am I going to lose my job? What are they going to think about me? But did you have any fear?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt like they were going to be like, ooh, the nerve of this. And at some point, I'm sure they probably were like, the nerve of this girl, like always like, no, excuse me, that doesn't, But like I said, I think that for my relationship with it, specifically Lee Daniels, he respected that. And so sometimes he would pull me out the room and ask questions like, do you buy this? Or what would you really think about that? Like, because he knew that I would be honest. And if anything, I want someone to be able to count on me for that. As young as I was and as green as I was, that was the one thing I knew I had to contribute. I mean, especially considering my background, and that's why I elaborated on just the fact that I graduated. My degree was women's studies, African American studies, and film, but I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. But I knew that that was going to be the foundation upon whatever it was that I was doing, and it did. I mean, not to say you need a degree to speak on women's issues or Black issues,
Right,
but
right.
just in a little bit more informed and educated perspective, and just being able to speak to different nuances and um, you know all of that. And so yeah, I was definitely I was definitely kind of after that, after I had kind of established that dynamic with me in the room, some of the writers would be like, "Hey, can you do a dialogue pass for me?" Because I mean, sometimes this is a very young show. You have writers who are a little bit older, and their dialogue might not, their slang might not be as or speak to the culture or the age group. And so like I'll be like, of course, yeah, I'll do, like I'm down for anything. I'll stay after and do whatever, because that was obviously I was willing and able, and I was hungry, and I wanted to show that I had work ethic. And so I would do like dialogue passes, and then eventually Karen Jiss, who was our showrunner season 2 and 3, she would give me sides to write, which sides are basically like scenes that scenes that would go out to the casting, so that when actors came to audition, they would read from those sides. And so I felt like every opportunity I had, I'm like, I'm gonna write the best side.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like I can tell that you really love what you were doing, right? Like
well, but
you were not playing any games.
but because assistants don't always get those opportunities. Like I
Right,
took every opportunity. You want me to write sides? Like that's so small in the grand scheme of things. But like I was gonna use every opportunity to
right.
either flex that muscle to get better, or show her, hey, when you read these sides you can see I got something here. So
Look, count me in.
yeah, and then that turned into, actually, I mean, this is probably like against WGA policy, but that turned into, some of the group writes that we would do for the episodes, like, hey Nina, you want to write a scene, like, and then that turned into, obviously, Karen staffing me onto the show.
I
um
love that.
so everyone doesn't, but I say that to say every show and every space that you're in does not necessarily like foster assistance in that way. I've almost always been in a room that has, so that's been beautiful to see. But it doesn't always work out like that. So if it does, and if you are in that space, you take it, because I've also seen some people be in a space where someone's kind of fighting for them to further themselves, and they're not really that interested. I've seen that also. So I just say, if that is truly what your dream is, and what you're fighting for, you have to really take every small teeny weensy opportunity and make the most of it. Whether that's writing a dialogue pass, writing sides for auditions, writing a scene, like,
Right.
and any bit of that.
I feel like it comes down to, at the end of the day, how bad do you want it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
of
how
course.
bad do you want it? All right, so rap shit. Rap shit. It's out right now. And of course, we are loving it. Like I'm really enjoying that we get to be in this world of rap girls. Like I listen to my rap girls often. So it's nice to just get to be in the world and see what it looks like to become a woman in the industry.
Yeah.
And so what was it about the show that made you want to be a writer on it?
Oh man. Um, well, one, it was Issa's show, and I am working with slash have been working with Issa for the last couple of years. So I trust anything she touches. I touch anything that she trusts. I trust her. So that was like the first green flag. And then I read the pilot, and I was like, oh, yes, it's time. It's time for us to be able to tell these stories. I mean, I've worked on a music show. Obviously, I worked on Star, and it's a very different show. It's network, broadcast cable. It's like soapy. It's for a particular audience. This is like raw, gritty, very, very real, very Miami, which I'm so excited about that element, because I feel like there's an audience from Miami, obviously, who'll be seeing Miami depicted in this light for the first time. Like, we see movies in Miami, and we see, all of the very touristy stuff, but this is like, we're shooting in Little Haiti, we're shooting and we made sure to, in the writer's room, to very specifically show and include all of these elements from this, from the audience that we knew this was for, to make sure everything was very realistic. And like, no, where would they be? What club would they be going to? where the Haitian and Dominican population, like where are they occupying these spaces, where like all of these things we put so much effort into to make sure that like it was real and it's authentic. And just speaking to, I mean, these are like two. I know a lot of people assume that this is about City Girls. It's not about City Girls. They are co-executive producers, which is amazing because we felt like telling this story about two rappers out of Miami. Like, we want it to be real. We want it to be authentic. So, who better than to have co-executive produced than City Girls? And I'm sure they can relate to a lot of the things that we're shedding light to in the story. But these women are just one. Mia and Shawna are just polar opposites. If you've watched,
Absolutely.
if you've been watching,
They totally are.
Polar opposite, which is beautiful because it's just showing just the dynamic of having like layered, complex Black women depicted on screen that aren't stereotypical. Like there's somebody for everybody in this show, and that's the thing. It's not just a show for Black women. If you watch this show, you will see yourself in somebody. I definitely have seen myself in a couple of the different characters, or I've also seen people that I've grown up with. And I'm not from Miami, but like it speaks to just our culture in general, and just having these women who are learning their voice literally and figuratively all at the same time. It's very much a more mature coming of age story, if you will. When we think of coming of age, we're always talking about these like adolescent storylines, but this is a very like Black woman coming of age type of story, and it's exciting. And that can happen at any age for some people, but I think that's what it was, just like seeing these women find their voice in a way that like all Black women do in life, but then also like literally finding their voice in where they fit into this dynamic. And we don't go from like, hey, let's start a rap group, to like the next episode they're on tour and like doing big shows. Like, this is them getting it out the paint for a while. And we did that intentionally because we want it to feel real.
Right. I mean, one of the things that Shawna said when she was talking to her boyfriend, she was just talking about how, like, as creatives, are on the journey she's on, there's no ladder, right? Like, there's no she's literally figuring it out. He has a very specific journey that he's on. She's figuring it out, and I really I was like, yo, they really get it, and I appreciated that moment.
Absolutely, and especially, I mean, just like you say, like just the nuance of being a Black woman in that industry. Like, there's definitely no formula. I mean, there is, and they do scrutinize, and they have this very open conversation almost every episode. And you see, Shawna scrutinizing the kind of formulaic way in which the 2022 Black woman rapper makes it successful, and that's obviously the very like stereotypical. But then you also, it's great to have this conversation between me and Shawna in episode 2, I believe, and this is kind of a recurring conversation, but in particular episode 2, I think really spoke to it, which is two completely different respects, two completely different point of views when it comes to the empowerment of that. Like, Shawna is very much, like I said, scrutinizing it and kind of tired of having to feed that stereotype, and Mia sees it as empowering and not, like they're each teaching each other things along this journey. And that's the beautiful thing. You'll see that as they go throughout the season, but they have so much to teach each other.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I just love being able to speak to those very different experiences, and how obviously, one is not correct and one is, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So you wrote episode 4, which is coming up this week. How did you approach your episode of Rap Shit, and like, what was your thought process? What did you do to prepare?
I mean, as you know, in the writers' room, we break all the episodes together. So it's very collaborative. But when you get into your own episode, there are things that you want to fight for. And I think I felt like we finally set up Shawna and Mia. And that is very clear. But I think you'll see in this episode, Chastity has a pretty good storyline. And I don't want to, I'm like trying to hide the ball without giving too much away, but I think that her storyline will really, I think audiences will be really interested in what that's doing. I mean, you see this Black woman pimp from, I mean, let's just call her what she is on the show. She is a pimp. She has girls that she's yeah. And we wanted to make sure that that was as nuanced as possible. She's obviously not your stereotypical pimp, and she's really just like Shawna and Mia are fighting for validity in their storylines. So is Chastity, and she's trying to do that obviously through. I mean, if you've been watching, you already know she wants to be their manager. But how she fights to go about fighting for these girls is the same way in which she hustles and grinds with her girls on the streets. And so it's beautiful just to see just the nuance of her world. And obviously she's like a character who's always covering and posturing and acting like she got it. Right. And so it's just beautiful to humanize these different characters in a way that have been so stereotypically, like what we're usually used to in television. And I think that is the biggest thing that I love about this show. So episode 4 is definitely doing a lot of that. And it's, I mean, it is one of the most fun episodes. Like they're all over the place. It's a ride. They're going on a ride. Literally,
I love an adventure. I love an adventure, and I feel like that's how the show is feeling. I mean, that's the feeling that I took from the trailers and all of the things that we got to see, the teasers and stuff. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to watch.
Episode 1, 2, and 3, I feel like are the setup episodes. Right. Which are still fun, and everybody has been loving it, and I love that they've been loving it. After episode 3, I think it just like you go on a ride. It's like buckle your seatbelts now.
We're ready.
About to turn up.
We're ready. So are you excited for people to see your episode? Like what is the feeling of like people watching something that you really like fought for? And
I think I feel the same investment in the entire show than I do my episode. I think when I first, when I was first staffed in like 2017 or whenever that was, like it was so long ago, I was so excited for my episode. But at this point in my career, as you climb in your positions in the show, because there are positions like you go from staff writer, story editor, co-producer, producer, supervisor, it goes on and on. But as I've climbed, I feel more responsibility in the show in its entirety than just my episode. So I don't get as excited for my episode. I get excited for all the episodes because I want people to feel how hard that we work in the room to make it all feel cohesive and all feel fun and exciting as a whole. Like it's no more my episodes. It's like, it's the show. And I want, if everybody's favorite episode is 7, I'm down for 7. If everybody's favorite episode is 2, I'm down for that. I just want them to be excited about the show as a whole and want another season so that we can keep going and going.
We already do. I feel like we already do. We already want another season. Okay.
Listen.
All right. So like, was it exciting and fun to be around the energy of the show's launch? Like the screening, the premiere, like all of those things. Like, was that exciting?
Yeah. I mean, HBO is no joke when it comes to marketing. They pull out all the stops. It was so fun to watch. I've never seen such smart marketing before in my life, and I'm
intentional. Like, okay, that viral video with the rapper
TikTok stuff. Oh yeah. Rainer. Oh my God, that was genius. First of all, that was genius because I was scared at first. I was like, oh, they're marketing her like she's a real artist, and I'm so scared for the backlash. But then they were like, and they obviously didn't attach her as Issa's artist. They just put her out as an artist so that we could get the world worked up, because everybody was like
we were worked up. We were
obviously
worked up.
This is spoof. Like we're writing to that. We're making a very we're making a point of this. And so when they saw her on the show, I was just so excited to see their reactions and that they put 2 and 2 together and it didn't go over people's heads. But yeah, their marketing in general, it's just been so smart, and it's so beautiful to see marketing that is inclusive and exciting and fun, and like just being willing to put money into a show that's so, and I'm sure, having Issa's name behind it, pulls a lot of leverage. But I'm very exciting about how intentional they've been with the marketing, and it's just fun to see. And it's like, oh, that was fun, that was smart, that was cool.
I love seeing Shawna and Mia on Rap Genius. Like I'm like, okay, this
Oh,
is
that
just, I'm like, okay, y'all this
and they're
really.
so funny. Oh my God, they're so funny together. They've like built a real friendship. Like they're friends in real life now. And so seeing them together, oh my God, it's just gold.
I love that. So outside of work, you are human, your mother. Like how do you take care of your mental health when you're working and when you're not working?
Ooh, girl. Um, I'm saying this as I'm like speaking in a soft whisper because my baby is literally in her room sleep and he is like right outside. Um, hmm. I mean, God, I pray. um, I don't shy away from being religious, and being a woman of faith. So that's huge. But in particular, this season of my life has been just very, very taxing. I've had like the most joyous experience of motherhood. I literally was on set in Miami at month 8 of my pregnancy, on set for 12 hours a day, on my feet, swollen ankles.
I love it. I mean, I
But
love it, but like I get it, but like wow.
yes, but I think that was like one of my most like proud moments, is just like being able to do what I'm I love and not having to compromise in my life. Now that has come with a lot of hard work, um, because having a newborn baby and working in this industry and being not only working in a room, in a writer's room and in television, but also doing development outside of that and working on feature, and it's a lot. It's a lot. But this is what I asked for. This is what I love. This is what I want my life to look like. And so while I do, I have moments where I'm complaining about workload, I'm also making sure to balance those moments with like giving thanks, because this is what I want my life to look like. So
That
I
is so
pray.
good.
Yeah, I pray. I have a nanny, and she helps me tremendously throughout the day when I'm working from home or having to leave. Her father obviously carries a lot of the load. Self-care, I mean, I just try to make sure that I don't lose myself in that. So if that means, taking walks, taking walks out the house, getting out the house, making sure just like that I just don't lose myself in all of what I have to give to everybody else. And that's important in any career, in any space that, as a Black woman, or as in just anybody, in any industry, just like not losing yourself, and not forgetting yourself and not neglecting yourself, whatever that looks like for you, because everybody's self-care looks so different.
I love that you shared that because I think it gives hope and I think it gives hope to people who or to women who want to have children but who are like, oh my God, like what would I do? Like my career, I think that your transparency can be very helpful.
One thing I will give is transparency, because I'm not gonna lie, I was crying at 4 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the night when my baby would not go to sleep the other night. And I woke up the next morning and I was tired, and I had a pitch that afternoon. I had to pull it together, and then afterwards I was just like, you know what? Thank you, God. That was hard, but thank you. That was very
Yes.
hard, but
Well,
I
thank
got
you. Ooh,
through.
that's good.
And I'm always going to be transparent. I mean, life is hard. Motherhood is hard. Being in this industry is hard. Being a Black woman is hard. All of these things are very hard things, but they are, like my mother said on the phone when I was crying, you can do hard things. My
My
writing
friend
part.
always says that. My friend Nakia always says that, and
Oh
I
my goodness. And
I
it was
take
so
that with me.
it was so crazy because I was this is another level of transparency. But I'm on the phone crying, and I'm like, I can't do this, Mom. I can't do this. And she's like, you can do this. And then as soon as the next morning, right before our pitch, my writing partner slash she's also the showrunner of Rap Shit, Sarita, and also my friend, I'm like also complaining to her right before I pitch, and she's like, "You can do hard things," and I was just like, "Wow, that's the second time in the last 12 hours that someone has said that to me. I can do hard things." Like,
Yes. I love the alignment. I love the
be a
alignment.
lot, yeah, exactly, exactly. God will give it to you in different ways, and I mean, I say this in like the most like you know loving way, but like be careful what you ask for. You ask for God for patience, he's gonna test your patience. Like those are the things, and that's not to deter you from asking for it. It's just to prepare you.
Yeah, it's a part of it. Like, I wanna
Yeah,
be I know not everybody's like this, but I wanna be challenged. I wanna be
yeah,
stretched. I know that when I'm crying because things are hard, that it's
yeah,
a part of it, and I have to let myself cry.
yes. And that's a part of self-care too, is giving yourself being being easier on yourself, and like
Yes,
yeah,
grace.
giving yourself grace, asking for mercy when you need mercy, like all of those things. And I keep saying, I know I saying these from very prayerful and like religious place, but that's what my self-care looks like personally.
No, I love it. So, what can we so I have one more question, and then I wanna get into, like, a quick little soundbite round, but
Mhm.
what can we expect from you in the future? Like, what are you most excited about?
Mm, I think I'm like the press released this years ago at this point, so it's not a secret, but right while I am most excited for the future of whatever projects I develop myself from my own original ideas, that is obviously the goal, and I can't wait for that moment. But I think what I'm working on right now that I'm most excited for is the Set It Off reimagining, and that
Yeah.
comes with so much pressure because of, obviously, especially Black people, they're like, "Don't remake a classic," but just taking that pressure and using it as like fuel to like show them, oh, okay, you say this now, but when you watch it, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. And so just using that as fuel, and like it just, like you said, it challenges us to make the best version of what we know we want to see. Like this is us. We are the audience. Like we're not gonna
That
just
part.
just try to deliver some like 2022 corny version of a classic thing. It's like we grew up on these movies too. Like
And you
it
said
just
reimagining. That and I love the word reimagine, and I think people should understand the difference between reimagine and reboot.
absolutely. I mean, and the character 75% of the characters are deceased,
Right.
so we're
It's
obviously
really
not
different.
raising them from the dead.
Right.
But yeah, it's a
Fun.
reimagining, but at the same time, we're very much we work so hard to make sure that the tone and the world of what we love from that classic and what we grew up on is still present, even though it is 2022. Like this, our world looks a lot different, but the messaging, it's like it's our baby. Like we're very, very, very much not, you know, we are no stranger to the pressure and what the expectation is, and we want to definitely make everybody proud and make ourselves proud for the most part.
I'm excited about that. I'm sure my audience will be excited about that. And so we're definitely gonna have to tune into that.
Yeah.
And so I want to wrap our conversation up. I want to ask you some fun questions in our soundbite round. So I'm gonna ask you 5 questions, and it could be the first thing that comes to mind. You can just say it, and then I'll ask you the next question.
Okay.
Um, so what are you watching?
Oh, everything. I'm my friends make fun of me all the time because I watch everything. But okay, some of my favorites. Oh, I'm all over the place with it. I'm just gonna go from every like network. P Valley, Snowfall, um, even on Apple TV Plus, Physical, Netflix. I love Stranger Things. There's so much.
There's so much.
HBO Max, obviously, rap shit. Duh. I
Period.
love Hacks, Euphoria. FX has so many good things that I'm waiting for at the end of the year. I watch everything, as you can see.
No, I'm one of those too. I watch literally everything. Like I always like to know what's about to come out so that I can add it to my list. So what are you loving
Like on TV.
in general? Like just what are you loving?
Oh, just like in life.
Yeah.
I am loving how many Black women rappers that I see thriving right now. In different spaces. Like I know we obviously see
We got Doechii, like we
oh
got
my gosh.
Doja Cat. Lotto is doing big things.
But you know what? You forget when sometimes when you're just watching like mainstream or listening mainstream, you forget. And I watched the BET Awards, and I was so proud of
Yes,
them
yes,
this year in particular for
I did.
giving the fact that I never see artists who I don't know usually on television at a award show, and I there were two or three, and I never ever see artists where I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is. I was so proud of BZ for
Yeah,
that moment.
they did
But
that
in
thing.
general, that's speaking just to the culture in general of just like taking risks, giving women these very, very different genre, like cross genre spaces to thrive in, like Doechii. Like it's beautiful to see. I want to see like a punk rock rapper. I want to see like a Doja type pop. I just all of it. I just love it all. I love
Oh,
it.
I love it too. I definitely I feel you on that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to do for fun?
What is my favorite thing to do for fun? Eat. I love to eat. I'm gonna be completely transparent. I used to love to work out, and since I have my baby, I have not worked out in a long time, but that is a plan to get back to that space because that is also my form of self-care. I recognize that. But so I love hiking and I love doing all that, but I'll be completely honest, I haven't been hiking in a long time. But I'm gonna get back to that, getting back to myself. But yes, I love to eat. I love massages. I love the movies. I'm finally in a space of like the COVID paranoia where I'm like, okay, I think I'm comfortable going back to the movie theater. I want to go see
Yes,
those. I want to go see some
yes.
of these movies. The movie theater is like my sanctuary outside of the Lord and the church, obviously.
No,
But
I
I
feel
love
that.
the movies, so I might actually go tonight.
Okay, okay, well, enjoy. All right, two more questions. What's
Yeah.
the most impactful book that you've read?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. That's so hard. I feel like there's favorite and there's a I think Sula is probably the most impactful. I love like magical realism,
Okay,
surprisingly,
that's
because
fun.
I don't think I'll ever write magical realism, but I love watching it. I think Sula slash Ruby, which are both giving kind of the same vibes. Cynthia Bond and Toni Morrison. Yeah, Sula and Ruby are probably the most impactful. Yeah,
Okay. And then do you have a secret YouTube obsession? If so, what is it?
it's tab time because my child loves it. Let me tell you, Tabitha Brown, if you thought you loved her from like her cooking videos and her like that's your business child, if you watch her children's show, you will be like
Okay, so all the moms, we need to watch. I mean, I'm not
all
a
the
mama,
moms.
but tab time is where it's at.
We love tab time in this house and we love Gracie's Corner. Sorry, I'm
Yo,
like
Gracie's Corner has bops. Like,
Afro beats, like a DJ Khaled beats. I'm like, listen, if I need
I
my
love
baby to
it.
learn the ABCs or BINGO or the numbers
She's
or
gonna be
the
bobbing her head like,
okay, she loves it because she's dancing. But tab time, what I love about tab time is they allow Tabitha to maintain her like her messaging, like even at the end of the show to these like 2-year-olds, she's like, now y'all have a good day. And if you can't go, don't go messing up nobody else's. And I'm like, yes, I need you to
they need
drill
to
that
know
into
that
my
too.
child.
Oh, I
It's
love that so
beautiful, but I love
much.
that they allow her to be her while also she has that like soothing voice for your child, which is like makes me so happy. And then they turn her into a cartoon. It's just beautiful. I love seeing this for us.
I love that. That's sweet. I'm gonna have to check that out. And I have a few friends that have daughters that I think
Yes.
really love that. Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. This has been great. I have loved learning
Aw,
so much about you and your experience and your perspective. I mean,
thank
it's so
you.
fun. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. I had so much fun.
Yay. Well, if there's anything I can do to support you, I'm here. We are gonna watch the episode 4. We're excited about the adventure of Rap Shit. So thank you, Nina.
Thank you.
That conversation with Nina was so good. I feel really enlightened, especially as a woman that works in unscripted. I feel like I learned a lot about scripted and I'm excited about the story that they are going to continue to tell at Rap Shit. So y'all, we got to make sure we're watching. I know you all already are watching, but this Thursday is a special episode because it is written by Nina. So if you like this episode of the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, hit that plus button in your app of choice. Please leave a comment. Please leave a review. Please give me the stars, okay? Give me all 5 stars to let me know and let the community know that you are enjoying this podcast. And I don't know why I say leave me a comment, y'all. Like, this is not YouTube. But please rate and review the podcast. And we'll be back next week.